A bucket list is like a list of things you want to do before you die, right? Well, that's kind of negative right off the bat. It is later than you think, so get out there and quit putting stuff off, quit procrastinating. And if you don't have a list, get started making one. It's great when you can call a client and say, we took over your booking, and she goes, oh, great, thank you so much for doing that. I'll talk to you as we get a little closer to your travel date. I said, well, wait. We saved you $7,700.
Welcome to Talking Retirement, brought to you by NJ Life and Health. I'm your host, Ken Connolly, and each week we sit down with fascinating guests who share their insights, experiences, and expert advice to help you make the most of your golden years. Today's guest is Rodney George. Rodney is the franchise owner of Luxe Travel Consultants, and he is also the host of the Luxury Travelers podcast. After spending decades in the finance sector, he has found a successful second career being a travel advisor. He is here to give us all the best travel tips from all over the world. He has gone to 6 out of 7 continents and is doing his 7th very soon, believe it or not. And he's also going to talk about why having a trusted travel advisor in your corner can mean all the difference. You're not going to want to miss this very entertaining and informative episode of Talking Retirement. Let's dive into it. I always like to introduce somebody by letting them introduce themselves. And I think one of the coolest things about you is you were in the finance sector for quite some time before you switched to the travel sector. How exactly did that transition happen?
I was a financial advisor for 30 years and took early retirement at 55. And about 6 months into retirement, I realized that I wasn't cut out to be retired. my friends laughed. They said, I'm the only guy they know that flunked retirement. So I started the travel business just for something to do, and it's turned into quite a career. I have 8 wonderful ladies that work with me, and we're one of the top 10 agencies in the country in the cruise planner system, which is a franchise. There's over 3,000 franchises, and so we bust our hump every day trying to stay in the top 10, working towards the top 5. So we're having a lot of fun. We're seeing the world. Which is a huge place. Somebody asked me one time, said, wasn't it a lot harder being a financial advisor? And I said, well, the financial advisor, you need to know the tax laws and you need to know the investments that are in your client's portfolio. But as a travel advisor, you need to know the whole world because everyone expects you to know something about where they're going or where they want to go or help them make decisions. And so you almost have to have been there, done that.
You can't fake it. You can't say, this is the best part about Italy if you've never been there before, right?
No.
Yeah. And it's really cool that you've gotten to take the second career and, see the world. So what are some of your favorite places you've been over the years?
Oh, the list is long and notorious, but I'd have to say if you pin me down to the number one spot in the world that I think should be on everyone's, I don't like to call it a bucket list. I like to call it experience list, and maybe I'll tell you why a little bit later on. But number one, most beautiful place on earth, as far as I'm concerned, is the Society Islands, French Polynesia, in particular, Bora Bora.
And Bora Bora, sorry, I'm a little ignorant to this. Where is Bora Bora located? Is that in Asia?
It's in the Society Islands. Think Pacific Ocean, halfway to Japan, around the equator.
What makes that place so beautiful that that's the top of your list?
It's the most beautiful, pristine, clear waters. You can see 50, 60 feet down in this water. It's so clear and so beautiful. It's so blue, it almost hurts your eyes. And you stay in an overwater bungalow at one of the really nice luxury hotels there, and it's very romantic.
Nice. I'll have to add it to my not bucket list. I know you said we shouldn't call it a bucket list. What do we call it, Rodney?
You call it an experience list. And the reason you call it an experience was a bucket list is like a list of things you want to do before you die, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of negative right off the bat. So let's talk about experience list. I want to sip mint juleps with a beautiful lady on my arm in Millionaire's Row at the Kentucky Derby while drinking a mint julep. Fine-tune that vision.
You had a great piece of advice. I can't remember the specific wording, but it was something like, it's later than you think. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah.
It's later than you think.
I met this incredible man about 35 years ago. His name's Dr. Philip Randall. For those of your listeners who are in and around the Atlanta area, they may have had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Randall. Dr. Randall he's a PhD in, I believe it's in gerontological studies. So he kind of knows how to talk to us old people. Right? But he did a piece of prose, I guess you could say. It was called "Enjoy Yourself. It's later than you think."
Mm.
And if you have any doubt about that, the Pope went to bed last night and he didn't wake up this morning. So it is later than you think. So get out there and quit putting stuff off, quit procrastinating, and get that list out. And if you don't have a list, get started making one. Everybody should have a list of things they want to see and do for the rest of their lives.
It's a great way to look at it. You never know when the shoe is going to drop. You never know when something's going to change. So you really have to experience the world and experience life sooner, because as you said, it's later than you think.
It is.
Let's tie this back into what your company does. Luxe Travel Consultants, you guys have been at this for years. I know you said you have 220 years of travel planning experience between everybody at the company that you work for. What type of experiences do you book for people?
Whatever they want to do, but we help them fine tune that. As a financial advisor for 30 years, I learned to ask questions and listen to answers. And God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. He intended for us to listen twice as much as we talk. So I became a very good listener, and I listened to my clients and what their dreams, goals, and ambitions might be for travel. And then we help them knit that together to have a spectacular experience. In addition to the agents that have that 230, 240 years of combined experience, we have 2 what we call executive concierge who take care of, once your trip is all planned and booked, then they take care of you from that day all the way until you get back home. So you've got their cell phone number. You can call them in the middle of the night. They don't really like that, but they will take your call. And they just kind of hold your hand and help you get through all the details leading up to your trip and then during your trip. And then, of course, a nice debriefing when you get back, the things that were outstanding. If there were any hitches along the way, we certainly want to hear about those, although we do everything we can to prevent those hitches, because you can always make some more money in life, but you can never get back the time. So I had a mentor that early in my career said, if anybody ever asks you for an hour of your time or $100, give them the $100, because you can always get another 100, but you can never get that hour back.
Yeah, it's a smart way to look at it and to really prioritize what you're looking for in life, because like you said, it's a limited resource. And I always come back to it's later than you think. I know when we talked, you deal with more small boutique cruises, right? These aren't the giant cities that are floating through the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean.
Well, our clientele is, I want to say 55 to 85, and they've done the big ships, and they know that they don't want to go hang out with 7,500 people. Maybe 400 or 500 would be nice. So we tend to move more towards the luxury space and the smaller ships for just a better all-around experience for the clients that are in our niche.
Yeah. What is the difference? I mean, I'm sure it's a million different things, but when you have those smaller, more boutique cruises, how does the experience change? I imagine it's much more personalized. I imagine it's much more easier to get things done. Like, what exactly is the difference when people actually get onto that ship?
Well, the big one is, and you kind of touched on it right there with your first comment, and that is that the service level on some of the luxury cruise lines, the service staff is almost a 1-to-1 ratio per passenger. So you're going to be pampered, whereas on the larger mega ships, it might be 1 to 2 or 3 passengers. It's a lot different experience. The food is a big upgrade. So if you're a foodie, you don't want to go on a mass market cruise line, my opinion. If you're a foodie, you want to go on one of the luxury brands. And cruising is only half of what we do. We do as much business annually on land as we do at sea, but cruising is it's my passion. I'd rather be on a cruise ship than anywhere. I've done 119 cruises, got 120 coming up here in just a few weeks. It's the ultimate vacation as far as I'm concerned. You're going to get on a ship for a week or 2 weeks, or I've got clients right now on an around the world cruise, 180 days, and they don't have to pack and unpack but one time. And they're going to see 140, 150 ports around the world.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience if you can set aside that 6 months or so. It's really cool people are able to do that. I think the coolest cruise you mentioned, and we're going to go into some different ones, but you mentioned that you're actually taking a cruise down to Antarctica in about a year's time, right?
Yeah, we tried to get there last year or 2 years ago. We tried to do what they call lovingly referred to as the fly bridge, where you fly from the southern tip of Chile to King George Island. We got there, we had our gear down, we were on final approach, and they waved us off and sent us all the way back to Punta Arenas because the airport just like that fogged in. One of the three planes was able to land, the other two were sent back, and we never made it to Antarctica. The airport was fogged in for day after day after day. So they gave us our money back, gave us half price for a new cruise, and sent us packing. Back to my story about an hour of your time. We wasted 4 days of our lives, and can't ever get that back. So we're going to take the hard way next time, and that is to cross the Francis Drake Passage by ship. Some of the roughest waters in the world on some days, and other days it's some of the calmest water in the world.
My brother and dad went to Chile last year, which seems like he had to take off from around that point, and even just getting there was a multi-day thing. So I definitely sympathize for the fact you mentally get prepared, you physically get there, and then you get turned around to the last possible second. It's got to be crazy when that happens.
Well, you go there thinking you're going to come home with bragging rights that you just checked off the seventh continent. And we flew over the seventh continent, but we didn't get our feet on it.
I know you also mentioned you guys do land tours. So how does that fit in with the cruises? Do you have cruises that connect to a land tour, or is it something separate?
Well, many times the clients want to either go early for their cruise or stay over because it's close to some place that they've never been, and they want to kind of drill a little bit deeper. So we have a number of tour operators that we work with, and we also do customized trips so that it's exactly what you want. You don't want to travel with 20 or 30 people on a motor coach. You want to travel by a luxury sedan of some kind with just yourself and those people that you choose to travel with. So we can do anything from the big 40, 50 person group all the way down to a trip individually planned.
I know you've done dozens across the world, maybe even hundreds, but what are some of the places that you've given land tours that people have really gravitated towards?
Right off the bat, Ken, I would say Africa for sure. We have 5 different tour operators that we use in Africa, just depending on what your budget is and what you want to see. I was very reluctant 10 or 12 years ago when I went there the first time. I was shocked and amazed. It's the land before man got there and messed it up. I mean, when you can see giraffes and antelope and impalas and leopards and lions and all that, all in an hour and a half or 2 hour period of time in the wild in their own natural habitat. It's spectacular. But New Zealand, Australia, that's probably a big place that's on a lot of people's must-do list. Obviously, all over the European continent, and then of course the Pacific Northwest. My second favorite place, the Western Canadian Rockies by train. We use a company called Rocky Mountaineer and Tauk to do that. Most spectacular train ride that I'm aware of in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be amazing to be able to just look at the scenery the entire time, and it's not even really a vacation at that point. You're just in transit, enjoying every second of it, right?
Yeah, you're in a dome car that's glass all above you, all the way down the sides. So you've got about 270-degree view of everything. And when I say everything, I mean animals, mountains, rivers, creeks.
Do you find that post-COVID international travel has been exploding? I mean, it feels like everybody was pretty domestic just because that was the only option 2020, 2021, and 2022. Do you find international travel has been exploding?
It has. It really exploded big time last year. Our agency did double the amount of business that we've ever done in our best year. And it was just it was an explosion of pent-up demand. This year's coming back almost as strong, although the economy in the U.S. with the uncertainty of the stock market has slowed us down just a little bit. But we're competing with some big numbers from last year. But people are still out there. I mean, I have a client who's on my advisory board who's been to and 33 countries.
Mm.
And she and her husband continue to travel. And I've got another client that's chasing her. He's trying to catch up with her for bragging rights. But people are still out there. This particular couple I'm talking about, they probably travel 9, 10 times a year. And I'm talking about anywhere from a 1 to 3 week vacation. Obviously, my clientele for the most part is retired because we're in Naples, Florida, and if people are working, it's usually for the sheer challenge and enjoyment of it, for something to do. Not very many people down here work because they have to.
Yeah. Someone like yourself who found a great second career that doesn't feel like work, I imagine.
Yeah, most days this is not like work.
That,
Occasionally it becomes work. Like if the airline loses a client's luggage and we've got to get on everybody on board, we got to find this luggage and get it to the client somehow. But usually it's somebody else's mistake that we're trying to take care of that makes it a not so fun day. But we find a way to have fun and rejoice in the fact that we're in one of the greatest industries in the world.
yeah, it sounds like a great industry to be a part of. I know that you are primarily focused on luxury, high-end clients. It's even in your name, but something we talked about is if you're on more of a budget, places you could go or strategies you could implement in order to keep yourself on that budget. What type of advice would you have for someone more mid-tier, low-tier in terms of travel budget?
I think the number one thing that everyone should do is, regardless of what it is you want to do, you should have a travel advisor. I mean, you don't do brain surgery on yourself. You don't try to fix your own cracked tooth. You need a professional. And most people operate, Ken, under the misconception that it costs more to use a travel advisor, when in reality, it never costs more. It usually ends up costing a lot less because we're part of Cruise Planners. We have a Cruise Planners franchise. We're a member of Signature Travel Network, which is one of the largest travel consortiums in the world. So when those big companies go to the travel marketplace, they're negotiating for literally thousands of travel advisors. The lady I was telling you about that's been to 133 countries, she likes to book her own stuff and then immediately call us and have us take over the booking. That way she gets everything just the way she wants it. And she called us one day about 2 months ago and said, "I booked this trip overnight. Would you claim it?" And so Teresa, she's my top associate. She went on to the cruise line and came back and said, "I saved you $7,700. Now that's probably about as big a savings as we've ever run into, and it was because they had cut a great deal with Signature Travel Network. It's great when you can call a client and say, "We took over your booking," and she goes, "Oh, great. Thank you so much for doing that. I'll talk to you as we get a little closer to your travel date." I said, "Well, wait. We saved you $7,700, which probably will almost pay for your business class airfare for the two of you." And of course, she was ecstatic.
Yeah.
So it never, ever costs more to use a travel advisor. So regardless of their station in life, find somebody that you like. You found a doctor you like, a dentist that you like, a lawyer that you like, an insurance agent that you like. Find a travel advisor that you feel comfortable with. And I think it's very important, just like a relationship that people have with your company, Ken. You have to find somebody you know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think to build off that point, I think in modern days, you have things like Expedias and kayaks and all these aggregators that make you feel as though you're getting the cheapest price, but you're basically saying to go against that, the travel advisor is usually the better option because they not only have the context to make your trip better, but they can also pass savings on to you.
Well, booking direct with any vendor or going through the discounters, you're never going to have that personal relationship that you have with a travel advisor. When you call our office, if you're my client, you get me. And that's a huge plus because I know you. I probably met you face to face a number of times. We may have even gone to dinner together. I know your children, maybe your grandchildren even. So there's a real deep relationship that deepens over time. When you call one of those places you were talking about, you're calling a toll-free number, and every time you call, you're probably going to get somebody different. So choice is up to you. I have a saying, and you're welcome to use this in your business too, that price is only an issue in the absence of value.
I do like that quite a bit, so I might steal that from you going
You go
forward.
right ahead.
So, yeah, I actually, speaking of insurance, I actually had a question we didn't speak about earlier, but I know as a Medicare broker that Medicare supplements do offer some international health coverage and everything like that. What do you make recommendations for with your clients when they're traveling to make sure that any potential health issue is covered?
Well, I tell you, the coverage, if any, with any insurance company, even Medicare, very limited once you cross the border of the United States. So we highly recommend that you have travel protection insurance. Now, most people buy that, so if they change their mind or if they get sick and can't go on their trip, they're going to get their money back that they paid for the trip. The far bigger claim is if you have an issue while you're traveling, an accident, a sickness, or whatever. Our biggest claims are in the $250,000 to $350,000 for medical and for transport back to the U.S. and that kind of thing. I highly recommend travel protection insurance to every one of our clients. And we have the ability to shop between 4 or 5 different companies to see who's got the best coverage for someone that's your age and station in life and the price of the trip.
So I just want to go through this a little bit because this is a pretty incredible example. So you're saying, let's say you're on a cruise, let's say you're in Europe, whatever it might be, and you go through a serious health issue. The cost of not only the care in that other country, but also getting transported back can be 6 figures plus easily.
Very easily, yeah. I had a client years ago. He was an Ironman triathlon participant, and on board the ship the first night, he couldn't walk up half a flight of stairs. So his wife knew obviously something's wrong here. The physician on the ship, with limited equipment that he had, believed that he had a pulmonary embolism. And so he said, we're going to put you off the ship in Monaco tomorrow and take you directly to the hospital and see what their opinion is. Well, sure enough, he had a pulmonary embolism, was in the hospital for several weeks before he was transported back home in a special aircraft. You say it can't happen, but I tell you, it happens all the time. And like I said, the biggest claims are always those where there's an accident or a sickness or an injury involved.
Yeah, I know something we've dove into is one of our biggest questions is coverage on cruise ships. And a lot of the physicians on the cruise ships don't take any type of insurance. They're kind of independent agents. And, it doesn't matter what coverage, like you said, could be Medicare, could be private insurance. They're just not going to take it. So the claim is going to lay on you.
Yeah, same thing when they put you off the ship into the hospital. Your insurance is no good. And people go, well, we're going to self-insure. That's your prerogative. But please sign the waiver and get it back to me right away. Because I don't want to be on the hook for you telling me that we didn't offer insurance when in fact we offered it and didn't beg you, but tried to persuade you that it was certainly something that you should do.
Yeah, it is scary because obviously when you're thinking of a vacation, it is such a happy experience and you're looking forward to it. But, just taking that extra 20, 30 minutes to sign off and make sure you got travelers is going to make a world of difference.
Yeah, and it's not inexpensive, but I mean, you don't buy car insurance hoping you're going to get in a wreck. You buy car insurance so if you do get in a wreck, it's going to be taken care of. And you're not going to go out there and run into a tree just to see if you could get your money's worth out of this year's car insurance premium. So you got, it's just like every other insurance. It's to cover a loss that you cannot afford.
You have the single best travel idea, which you release every week, right?
Every week.
So what are some of your favorite travel ideas that you've been covering over the past couple months?
Well, I tell you what, if you don't mind me putting a little plug in.
Yeah, go for it.
We have an offer here you can pick up. It's very short, but it's 25 secrets to a great vacation. And if your clients or listeners want to get that, all they have to do is text 25 secrets, and there's no spaces, no capitalization, just 25 secrets, and text that to 66866, and our system will automatically just email it right out to them. So the number is 66866, and just type in 25 secrets.
I will put that in the YouTube description to anybody watching if you want to. And also if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, it'll be in the description as well. So on top of the best travel ideas, which you can obviously access the free PDF they're offering, you also have a podcast. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, our podcast it's right there. The Luxury Travelers Podcast. We interview top executives from the travel industry, from the director of sales all the way up to the CEOs. There's probably 35 or 40 podcasts on our website now, and you can just get those by going to. You can get them anywhere you get your podcast, but it's Luxury Travelers Podcast. Most people prefer to go to YouTube and get them because on YouTube, we put a lot of video and a lot of photographs in our podcast, and it's much better if you can see it than just listen to it.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've been watching a lot of videos where they talk about YouTube is actually the future of podcasts because, like you said, so much of the visual content can be key to what is actually being discussed. So it's really cool you're making the push towards video.
Yeah, when I'm trying to describe an over-the-water bungalow in Bora Bora, when I can show you a picture of it or show you a video of walking through the whole thing, you know.
Who have been some of the favorites that you've been able to interview as you've been going through the podcast?
Well, the one that gets the most attention usually is if we're talking about safaris, because that seems to be on everybody's bucket list. And there's 2 or 3 people that have been on there. Probably the most exciting is my friend Dondra Ritzenthaler. She is the new CEO at Azamara Cruises. She was the head of marketing for Celebrity Cruises for years, and she moved over and took the job as CEO at Azamara, and she's just an exciting human being. She's a joy to have on the show, but and everything in between. So you just kind of go on there, and it's very well indexed, and you can just pick the one that you want to listen to. We pulled right up at 30 minutes, almost on the button every time. Although I could talk to some of these people for hours and hours.
Yeah, I know you said for a while you were a salesperson, so you can obviously talk as much as you want to, and I'm sure we could talk for hours upon hours too. But yeah, Rodney, this is all amazing information. You got a crazy, awesome life story and a bunch of great information for travelers. I know we've talked a lot about what you do. Where can people find you for not only the travel consulting, but also where can they find your podcast and how can they listen to you more?
Well, again, the best place is to go to YouTube for the podcast and just type in the search, The Luxury Travelers Podcast, and you'll probably see a picture of me there somewhere. And the best way to reach us is just give us a call. I'd much rather talk to you than read your text messages or emails, because you can find out so much more about somebody when you have a conversation. And so much is lost in a text message or an email. So just give us a call. The number is 844-547-2763.
So everybody watching this, everybody listening, I will be putting Rodney's contact information in the description. So if you want to access it at a different time, you absolutely can. As always, go to luxetrav.com if you want to check out his company, luxetrav.com. But like you said, Rodney wants to talk to you and get to know you instead of just getting an email or a text message or something like that. It has been awesome talking to you. So many cool topics, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thanks again.
Ken, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.